Good morning, guys. Hope you're doing well. Today, I want to talk about the question, can breaks in a relationship be valuable? So, to set this up, the other day, a friend of mine let me know that he and his significant other are taking a break. And so he asked me what my opinions on relationship breaks were. So, here are my thoughts. First thing I would say, breaks can be valuable. I think any time you're dedicated to something, it's really about having a healthy amount of dedication. But that can be blurred sometimes because usually we love what we're dedicated to. Sometimes when you're over dedicated, you do lose your identity of who you are. Um, you know, I don't think it's the best comparison, but I think it can be a comparison. When you see artists, actors, athletes take breaks or retire after working hard for a number of years in a row, whatever the reason may be, whether it's burnout, overworking, or just ignoring, other parts of their life during this time, I think they take those breaks as a way to step back and look at other aspects of their life and how they're defined outside of their craft. And in this way, I think breaks can be valuable in relationships. While relationships, again, are not exactly like professional careers, they're similar in terms of, when you love someone, you make them your number one priority. And sometimes you can over dedicate yourself to that person and kind of lose your own identity. So that's my positive view of breaks. Obviously, there are people that view breaks negatively. And so let's talk about why breaks don't work. Breaks often don't work because they're ambiguous, right? If one party says, for example, I just want to know who I am without this relationship, or I feel like I need to fill up my own cup because I can't give right now. And they say, they just want to take a break to kind of see what life is like without the relationship. For them, they don't know the time period that it may take or may not take to make a decision on the relationship. It's not like they can plan out from, you know, that starting point of taking the break. Listen, it'll take me 4 weeks to decompress. It'll take me 2 weeks to reflect on the relationship. And by that seventh week, I'll know whether I want to continue the relationship or not. They're just going to be open ended. And that's just the way they need to be in terms of figuring themselves out, figuring what the relationship means to them, just figuring life out. So, for me, I think because there's a lot of ambiguity with breaks, I think it's important to have, clear definitions of what the break entails. So, example questions you could talk about is number one, are we defining how long this break is? Is it a month and we'll come back and reflect? Or is the break indefinite and we just don't know when we'll come back and reflect? Are we together or are we allowed to see other people? This idea of, whether we're still a couple or just taking time off, or are we not a couple and we're allowed to date people? That's hugely important. Don't let that be put out, in a gray area. If you watch Friends, there's a funny, scene or phrase that goes on throughout a lot of it. And spoiler alert to anybody that hasn't seen Friends. But, Ross says, we were on a break, when commenting on, a girl, he, kissed, while he thought he and Rachel were on a break. And, in the Friends storyline, Rachel felt that it was inappropriate that he was with someone else. Obviously, beyond the funniness of the situation and the show writing and all that, the reality of the situation, however hysterical it is that the terms of the break were not defined. And that's where, communication needs to be clear. If there's any lessons that we learned from that. I think the third thing is to understand breaks are hard. Because you're not fully moving on. With a breakup, you're deciding to move forward. So it's tough because there's a grieving period, but in the back of your mind, we're moving on. Breaks are tough because you're taking this time to reflect. And so you're in this gray area of, however long it takes you guys, but a month later you might come back together and say, let's, if we make these changes, I'm willing to go forward in the relationship. Or you might say, one party might say, we had a great run. Unfortunately, I think it's best we move on. I think throughout it all, I think I would just say, I guess the optimist in me would say there can be positive outcomes from a break. Like I said in the previous point, you might come back and say, listen, we need to make these changes for me to maintain my own identity and also be in this relationship. So it might be, instead of seeing you 5 times a week, let's bring it down to 2 to 3. Or instead of both weeknights spending with you, maybe one weekend night with you and one with my friends. So, I think obviously breaks are hard, but stay positive. They can be valuable. It doesn't mean the end. Obviously, it could mean the end. But I think the important thing in terms of, making it as easy as possible is communicate, define terms, don't leave things in gray areas, and then just go from there. Wishing anybody in this position the best. If you have any questions or comments or thoughts, let me know. Put them in the comments below. Otherwise, thanks for watching.